Good morning and welcome back to Reading Wikis for You, where we read the wiki articles for you. And today, for our dive into the universe of Warhammer 40,000, we're going to be taking a look at the Adeptus Custodes, also known as the Emperor's Bodyguard. So, while I'm reading, as always, I'd absolutely appreciate if you drop some sort of a comment down below, letting me know something you'd like to know more about. It can be 40K related, Battletech, or honestly any topic at all, and we can get that into our regular schedule. And if it's something related to current events, we even are doing extra videos periodically as I think there are relevant videos. So again, feel free to drop anything in the comments and we'll see what we can get arranged. Of course, if you enjoy this, hit that like button, subscribe if you'd like to see more. But with all that said, let's get started. The Adeptus Custodes, renowned as the Golden Legion, the Brotherhood of Demigods, the Golden Brotherhood, and a host of other titles such as the Custodian Guard, the Guardians, the Emperor's Saints, the Watchers of the Throne, the Thousand Companions, the 10,000, but most commonly known as Custodians, are the guardians of the Imperial Palace and the Golden Throne, as well as the personal bodyguard of the Emperor. Due to the vast size of the Imperial Palace, the Custodes always act as a defensive army. Together with the Sisters of Silence, they represented the talons of the Emperor as the right hand of the Emperor, with the Sisters as the left. For much of their history, the Custodes rarely left the Imperial Palace and even more rarely left Terra. It is the Adeptus Custodes that decide who may enter the throne room of the Emperor and when. Such is their authority in this matter that Space Marines and Inquisitors must kneel before them. Custodians are the mightiest of mankind's warriors. They are to the Space Marines what those transhuman warriors are to common guardsmen, an elevated elite whose raw strength and willpower are wholly insurmountable. History. The Adeptus Custodes were known originally as the Legio Custodes, or Custodian Guard. The original Custodians were the first genetically and psychologically altered warriors to appear in the Emperor's armies during the Terran Unification Wars, where they served as the Emperor's personal bodyguard. The original recruits of the Custodes were from the offspring of Terran nobility. Some of these were later grouped into squad dynasties? Dubbed the Lords of Terra. The first known appearance of the Custodes was early in the Unification Wars during the fall of the techno-barbarian fortress at Nassau. However, the origins of the Custodian Guard are shrouded in myth and legend. During the Great Crusade, the Custodes always kept a contingent with the Emperor for his protection, but also traveled individually as envoys. The Emperor valued the Custodians above all his other warriors, and while he was willing to expend countless servants, he was always hesitant to bleed his Praetorians. After the Emperor's internment in the Golden Throne, the Adeptus Custodes took a limited role as protectors of the Imperial Palace, as ordered by Roboute Guilliman in the Edict of Restraint. The Custodes were equipped with the best power armor of the age and had access to the most highly advanced weaponry and vehicles of the Imperium, including designs that were not permitted to the Space Marine legions. After the end of the Horus Heresy and the enthronement of the Emperor, the Custodes were said to have changed the color of their cloaks from red to black to symbolize the darkness that had fallen over their order. To further mark their failure, many, such as those in the Heteran Guard, stopped wearing all but their black helms, capes, and loincloths. However, others, such as those in the Ephoroi, were observed still wearing standard power armor. By the end of the 41st millennium, with the reappearance of Roboute Guilliman, the Custodes abandoned their shrouds of shame and were seen again wearing their traditional red garments and power armor. During the Age of Apostasy, the Adeptus Custodes reemerged briefly during the siege of the ecclesiarchal palace of Terra in the reign of Goj Vandir. During this time, the Custodes attempted to make their way towards Vandir, halted only by the brides of the Emperor, who Vandir had convinced to become his personal bodyguards. After a long and otherwise fruitless discussion, the Custodes convinced the leader of the brides, Alicia Dominica, to return with them to the presence of the Emperor. What happened during that moment is unknown, but the effects resulted in the brides of the Emperor rebelling against Vandir, ending his reign once and for all. Centuries later, during the Terran Crusade, Custodes arrived to reinforce the reborn Roboute Guilliman as he battled the Thousand Suns on Luna. Shortly after, Terra was besieged by daemons, proving to many Custodes that they had been wanting and let the threat of the archenemy arrive on the Emperor's doorstep. Later, the Custodes permitted Guilliman to enter the Emperor's throne room alone for an entire day. The reappearance of a son of the Emperor galvanized the Custodes, and behind closed doors, Guilliman and Captain General Trajan Valoris amended the Edict of Restraint and modified the role of the Custodes that would see many of them journey across the galaxy on crusades. Now, members of the Custodes will bring war to the enemies of mankind, while the companions oversee the safety of the Emperor's mortal form. The Adeptus Custodes are so revered that it is deemed heresy for the Administratum to record them ever losing a battle. Thus, it is officially recorded that any war zone the Custodes are deployed to is an Imperial victory, even before they arrive. Combat history. Unification era. Battle of Molland Sen, Battle for Vilifactor's Fortress, Battle on the red fields of Primasalia with Iron Fiends, and the Palace Coup. Great Crusade, Pacification of Ophelia 7, Proximum Betrayal, Battle of Goro, Battle of Gyros Thravian, Battle of 4716, Styxian Overmancers, Adeptus Custodes fought on its hellish fastness, fighting with the false empire of pure-blood kings, Cold Harvest Campaign, and the Ulanor Crusade. Horus Heresy, Burning of Prospero, Dropsite Massacre, a small squad of Custodes under Aquilon were slain by the Word-Bearers. First Siege of Chthoniya, 3 sodalities of the Legio Custodes took part in the battle. Battle of Cygnus Prime, War within the Webway, Exandrian Incident, Battle of Terra, and the Great Scouring. Post-Heresy, Eldar Raid on the Imperial Palace, Purging of Trinect, Siege of the Eternity Gate, Battle of Dackworth, War for the Andromax System, Wog Deathbringer, Defense of Tiboriel, Wog Zagstomp, Years of Madness, Battle of Luna, Battle of Lionsgate, and subsequently fighting against other Chaos cults on Terra. Era Indomitus, Primarch Scourge, Battling the Hexarchy's Coup, Battle of Othana 5, Battle of San Lior, Battle of the Ophelia System, Purging of the Worms of Tendril, Defense of Vostograd, Victorium Crusade, Battle of Lok II, Battle for the Aspis System, the Indomitus Crusade, featuring the Battle of Vorlis, Battle of Galthamor, Solar Incursion, Battle of Cassadur, Battle of Raukos, and the Plague Wars. Battle for Hydrafer against the Black Legion, the War of the Spider, Witching Wars, Battle of Bajil, Battle of Clythis IV, Battle of Lenthis, the Unthinkable War, the Fourth Tyrannic War, specifically the Battle of Bastior, and the Jovian Purge. Organization. The Warriors of the Adeptus Custodes are a department of the Adeptus Terra, the imperial government, but its members are answerable only to the Emperor and their own leaders. The organization's leader carries the title of Captain General, and due to the importance of the Adeptus Custodes, they often hold a position in the Senate of the High Lords of Terra. Below them are 2 tribunes, though during the Heresy era there were 3. Individual squads of Custodes are overseen by shield captains. The Custodes' nerve center and command and control headquarters is the Tower of Hegemon within the Imperial Palace, while a small elite of 300 Custodes, known as the Companions, form the Emperor's personal bodyguard and never leave his side. Although the Legio Custodes originally numbered 10,000, around 5 years into the war within the Webway they had been reduced to around 1,000. However, by the 41st millennium they had rebuilt to their original 10,000 strength. Ranks and titles. The ranks of the Custodian Guard are noted as somewhat informal, as much gestures of respect towards veterans and gifted individuals as a true command structure. Captain General, Chief Custodian to the Emperor. Custodian Tribunate, Tribune, Senior Officer. There were 3 tribunes during the Horus Heresy era, though now there are 2. Proconsul, Prefect, Lictor, Supreme Castellan, Aquila Commander, Captain Commander, Command of Shield Hosts. Shield Captain, Squad Leader. These are the most veteran, well-knowledge, and experienced Custodians. The rank exists currently with other Custodian titles such as Prefect, Lictor, Proconsul, and Tribune. And finally, Custodian. Castes and subdivisions. Custodians belong to a caste determined by their war gear and battlefield role. Hykanatoi The main strength of the Custodian Guard. These are Guardian spear-equipped heavy infantry. Their numbers included the Custodian Guard proper, as well as several specialized units. Sentinel Guard, the defensive formations of the Custodes used to defend emissaries and special facilities. During battle, they would be charged with holding the line against enemy onslaughts, and as such had a greater level of teamwork than the rest of the Custodes. Sentinels were normally equipped with Praesidium shields and sentinel blades. Hateron Guard, the elite inner circle of the Custodes. The Hateron Guard formed the personal guard of the Emperor himself and frequently acted as his aides and confidants. The Hateron Guard would only leave the Emperor's side under the most dire of circumstances. Cataphractoi, jet bikers. They form fast attack and reconnaissance units known as Agamatus jet pike squadrons or Virtus praetors. The Cataphractoi also operate the Custodes fighters and gunships. Moritoi, the smallest unit of the Custodes, they consisted of wounded brothers and sisters interred within dreadnoughts. Thranatoi, Terminators. They serve as elite shock troops, siege units, and counterattackers. Sagittarium Guard, a subunit of the Thranatoi caste, they were among the least common Custodes. Their primary role was the slaying of enemies from a distance and with the use of devastating heavy firepower. In addition, they were known as the sentries of the outer perimeters of the Imperial Palace. Ephoroi, a highly secretive order tasked with covert operations, counterintelligence, assassination, and infiltration. During the Great Crusade, it was said that they commanded the Officio Assassinorum. Venetari, fast jump pack equipped infantry. Custodian Wardens, elite warriors whose skill is above all others. Vexillus Praetors, standard bearers. Warders of the Vaults of Rhython, shadowy subforce of the Custodes deployed deep within the Imperial Palace. Eyes of the Emperor, sect of retired Custodians. Dancanatoi, created during the final days of the Horus Heresy, intended to expunge all treachery from the Imperium. Blade Champion, champions who seek out enemy leaders. Shield hosts and companies. The modern Adeptus Custodes are deployed in contingents known as sodalities, shield companies, and shield hosts. A shield company consists of a temporary contingent led by a shield captain, typically consisting of a few squads of Custodians, a Vexillus Praetor, a Virtus Praetor squad, and an Alaris Terminator squad, as well as accompanying vehicles. Conversely, a shield host consists of multiple shield companies to undertake a specific task and is led by a captain commander, as well as a council of Vexillus Praetors. Known such formations include the Aquiline Shield, a shield company, the Eagle's Vigilance shield company, the Gilded Talons shield company, fights under shield captain Arcturus Paliades, the Solar Furies, shield host which battled the Necrons awakening on a world perilously near Terra in late M36, the Fury of Terra, shield host, the Shadow Keepers, shield host, the Emissaries Imperatus, shield host, the Guardian Stellar, shield host, the Solar Watch, shield host, the Dread Host, shield host, the Gilded Fist, the Vigilius Circumspectus, shield host, the Technologors Noctus Cognis, shield host, and the Whetted Blade, shield host. Appearance and equipment. Generally, the Custodes are larger and much more powerful than Space Marines. They are far more similar to the legendary Thunder Warriors as they were created by a similar process. Armor. The Adeptus Custodes are clad in finely wrought golden armor, superior even to that worn by Astartes. Each suit is custom made and fitted to its wearer, a work of art in its own right. The name of its owner is inscribed within the interior of the suit. Each suit is inlaid with gems mined from Terra itself and cut by skilled artisans. These will be changed whenever the Custodian switches roles to reflect their new position. Their power armor is forged in the secret armories of the Custodes somewhere within the labyrinthine halls of the Imperial Archives, and is made from aramite as opposed to ceramite. The servos and motors of the Custodes' armors are nearly completely silent. Custodes' power armor also includes a built-in grav chute and internal air supply. Each suit's helmet includes an internal vox, an altimeter, ambient neutralizers, and a hololithic schematic overlay map. Auric Battle Plate. Designed for the commanders of the Legio Custodes, these impressive armor suits are as much works of art as they are formidable bulwarks against the weapons of the enemy. Auric Demiplate. A lighter version of the Custodes' armor, designed for maximum maneuverability and minimal bulk. This allows clades of the Custodes that rely on more speed for their protection to make the best use of their unique war gear. Auric Warplate. proof against small arms, and also incorporates a series of field generators that can repel even heavy ordnance. Moreover, the warplate's custom-fitted plating and artfully worked servo harnesses allow Custodians to fully exploit their gene-forged physique on the battlefield. Overall, the power armor pattern is a supreme marvel of science and technology and is far superior to the standardized power armor used by the Space Marines. Heraldry. The right shoulder guard of a Custodian's armor depicts the Imperial Aquila, and all armor is adorned with precious gems harvested from the deeps of Terra and cut by skilled artisans. The color of the left shoulder guard clearly shows to which shield company or shield host a given custody belongs. For these purposes, the former takes precedence over the latter organizational tier. This coloration will often match the custodian's tabard, and also will with any robes they may wear. The color of gems often depicts the shield company of the Adeptus Custodes. When they switch such organization to another, gems are always carefully extracted from the armor of the Custodes and replaced with those of a new appropriate color. Weaponry. Some Custodes further protect themselves by carrying a Presidium shield, Storm shield, and or wearing Terminator armor. For armament, the Custodes are renowned for carrying Guardian spears, mighty power weapons that have been carried by the Adeptus Custodes since long before the Emperor's confinement. This weapon is closely associated with the Custodes and is depicted on their banners and badges. Other melee weapons carried by Custodes include the Guardian spear's cousins, the Interceptor lance and the Venatari lance, as well as Sentinel blades and their rarer cousins, Vault swords, Misericordia, Custodes vexille, and Castellan axes. As befitting of their role as the Emperor's guards, the Custodes were given access to the finest and most advanced technologies of the Imperium. This is often reflected in their vehicle designs, which are mostly anti-grav. The Custodian Guard is known to have used grav rhinos, Caladius, Pallas, and Coronis grav tanks, and Paragon pattern jet bikes. For aircraft, they use the Orion and Ares gunships. In the 10,000 years since the heresy, the Custodes have meticulously maintained and preserved much of their equipment. However, few of their technologically advanced vehicles remain, and they rarely use post-heresy designs. Yet there are rumors that they still possess powerful grav tanks and other, even more potent patterns of war machine that date back to the Age of Wonder. When heavy support is needed, the Adeptus Custodes ride to battle inside indomitable, venerable land raiders. Fleet. The Custodes operate their own fleet of highly advanced warships which exist outside of standard Imperial classifications. These include everything from battleship-sized vessels to cruiser-class ships that patrol the Sol system. Besides unique designs, they have also been seen using standard Imperial Navy ships such as the Falchion-class battleship and Tyrant-class cruiser. Custodes ships are sometimes used for special missions by the Ephoroi case within the Greater Imperium, while many of their craft are operated by the Solar Watch. The spaceships of the Custodes have ancient translocation bays utilizing Godstrike pattern and Veilbreaker pattern teleportariums, where blessed incense drifts in the chill air. Each station is permanently attended to by high-ranking tech priests and blessed to such a degree that even Contemptor dreadnoughts can be teleported straight into battle. Outlook and training. Although the Custodes were among the first modified warriors to be created by the Emperor, they were never intended to be part of a conquering army. Such a role was to be filled by the later Astartes armies. This is revealed both in their mindset and training, where the Custodes do not fight as brothers and sisters and as a greater whole, but rather as individual warriors. This is in stark contrast to Space Marines, who employ a high degree of teamwork and collective tactics in battle. At least some Astartes looked down on the Custodes for these tactics, and it may be that this was deliberately designed so that they shared a bond with none but the Emperor himself. Whatever the truth, the Custodians are undoubtedly fanatically loyal to the Emperor and will carry out any task he demands, regardless of how brutal or suicidal it may be. While Custodians share a genetic kinship with one another within the formation, they do not foster the same spirit of brotherhood or sisterhood that is instilled within the Astartes in order to function together as a unit. Indeed, each Custodian prepares and inspects his equipment individually, rather than on military parade. The individuality of each Custodes is further promoted by the fact that the processes required to produce them is not as refined or as simple as that of the Astartes, and thus are not mass-produced as the Astartes are, meaning that each Custodian is a unique investment for the Imperium. One ritual that the Custodes do share is the recognition of mighty deeds, manifested in the awarding of names, which are added to the Custodian's title to represent the actions they have performed in service to the Emperor. Constantine Valdor obtained 1,932 names prior to the assault on Terra. Such names were inscribed on the inside of the warrior's battle armor as marks of individual pride. The training of the Custodes also differed immensely from the Astartes, being bodyguards rather than soldiers. It is clear from their blood games that Custodians are trained in the arts of assassination, both improvised and advanced, in order to counter possible assassination attempts to the Emperor. It is common for several Custodians to be on detached duty for these blood games, so that the organization remains vigilant against developing threats. Furthermore, it is clear that the Custodes are also well versed in the political etiquette of Terra, and have been known to act outside of imperial law to infiltrate influential noble houses and to investigate any potential threats, a role that an Astartes would never be expected to fulfill. Moreover, fitting of their status as the Emperor's aides, the Custodes are given an intense appreciation of finer concepts. Their training involves mastery of the arts, diplomacy, geography, history, and countless other fields. This aspect of the Custodian mindset is advantageous given that the Captain General often shares a seat with the High Lords of Terra, which thus allows them to navigate the political maneuverings of the Imperium's various agencies while still remaining an awe-inspiring warrior. The Custodes do not consider themselves soldiers. Rather, they see themselves as the guardians of the Emperor. Not just the guardians of his physical form, but also his ideals and what the species was meant to become. As such, they are also scholars, artisans, and counselors in addition to being trained rigorously in the art of combat. Some Custodians are known to practice yothagna, a form of meditative exercise, in their quarters during their personal time. Some yothagna techniques involve sitting cross-legged on a rug while practicing a series of breathing patterns and controlled body movements. Martial kata fighting styles. Custodes are taught a series of powerful stances known as the martial katas. These fighting styles can be adopted in unison by entire shield hosts, and each has a preferred kata they use in battle. By doing so, the shield hosts bring centuries of training to bear with violent precision. Callistus calls for the Custodes to keep up relentless fire while they advance against their enemies. Dakatarai, an aggressive imperial fighting style that has been adapted for the Custodes' use. It allows Custodes to deal with hordes that vastly outnumber them by effortlessly managing their foes' ebb and flow. This prevents the Custodes from being overwhelmed by hordes. The Dread Host specializes in its use. Kaptaris has been optimized to trap enemy units in melee combat. This allows the Custodes to parry, deflect attacks, or prevent their foes from falling back from combat. Kaptaris is ideal for maintaining an upper hand by controlling the battlefields. Rendax, used when facing a large number of foes. Salvas, used by Custodes in battle where they want to ensure their foes are killed, presumably all of them. Some katas are only used by blade champions specifically. They spend years perfecting these styles in the Imperial Palace's Collesia Auris. Behemor. Clinical strikes prevent even the toughest hide or armored hull from withstanding the champion's blows. Hurricanus lets a champion carve their way through the enemy ranks in a blur of blade and blood. Victus. Execution techniques that have been used by champions to claim the lives of countless tyrants and warlords. Biology and recruitment. The source of the gene seed of the Custodes is a mysterious issue, if indeed they even have something similar enough to Space Marines for the term gene seed to have meaning. Some say that the Custodian Guard are to the Emperor what the Space Marines are to the Primarchs, that the Emperor's own genetic matrix was used in their creation, and through this their loyalty to him is assured. Others argue that the Custodians are not like the Emperor in the way that a Space Marine is like his Primarch, and that some other source was used as a template for their physical and psychological form, a source that was lost during the anarchy of the Age of Strife. Recent sources, however, seem to firmly establish that the Custodes were created from the flesh and blood of the Emperor himself. The genetic enhancement that forms the Custodes is different from and predates that developed to create the Space Marines. Each Custodian is a unique work of art, the product of genetic lore collected over many lifetimes. The process of creating a Custodes is far more grueling and time-consuming than that of a Space Marine. Unlike Astartes, whose recruits begin implementation during adolescence, the creation of a Custodes must begin during the subject's late infancy. The genetic tailoring of each Custodes is unique and far more complicated than the comparatively crude Astartes. Originally, it was said that the Emperor himself oversaw the creation of each and every Custodes. However, now, although the gene enhancements that create new Custodes are shrouded in secrecy, the most accomplished bioalchemists and chirurgeons of Terra are trusted with their creation, allowing new Custodes to be made even after the Emperor's death. The exact method of their creation remains unclear. They do not receive simple implants like Space Marines. Rather, bioalchemy is used to trigger the subject's own transformation, an effect that takes root in their cells and very soul. It is said that the first Custodes recruits were drawn from the children of Terran nobility. The practice continues to this day, and all new initiates are drawn from infants among Terran nobles. New recruits are presented before the avenue of sacrifice outside the Ascensor's gate of the Imperial Palace. A handful of these aspirants survive the grueling genetic enhancements and training necessary to become a member of the Emperor's personal guard. How long the process takes is not known, though it is substantial and ends with the subject taking the name from the mythology and history of Terra. Such is the potency of this enhancement that there are no finer or more fearsome warriors in the Imperium than the Custodians. Biochemically fashioned from infancy to function as supreme combatants, tacticians, and bodyguards, they are death incarnate to those who defy the Emperor's will. The cellular alchemy that creates the warriors of the Adeptus Custodes leaves them forever touched by a spark of the Emperor's own divinity. Beyond their martial might and incorruptible nobility, this energy manifests itself as an almost supernatural warding, as though the Custodians were protected by the hand of the Emperor. Bullets and bolts are turned aside at the last moment, blades fail to strike home, and even the psychic powers of the foe can suddenly and inexplicably flicker away to nothing in the face of the 10,000. Some Custodians find that the holy light of the Emperor glows around them in a sublime halo, blinding enemies in their glory, forcing them to recoil in pain and terror. The Custodian Guard do not age biologically, so a veteran officer might be well over 1,000 years old. As with all their kind, warriors who believe they are no longer fit for duty will bequeath their armor to the colossal Hall of Names and go abroad into the galaxy disguised under a hooded black cloak. Battle Cry. The Adeptus Custodes don't have a battle cry at all. They fight with silence and grim determination. Known elements of the Adeptus Custodes. Land vehicles. Glorious Wrath, Land Raider of the Gilded Talon Shield Company. Glory to the Throne, Venerable Land Raider. Imperious, Rhino. Justice Delivered, Land Raider of the Gilded Talon Shield Company. Terra Rex, Land Raider. Wrath of Ages, Venerable Land Raider of the Eagle Vigilance Shield Company. Fleet, Argent, Tyrant-class cruiser. Irie Prime, Starkeep Guardian, guarding the Sol system, located on the star line between Sol and Gathalamor. Ferrum Raptorus, Starkeep located in orbit around Mars beyond the orbit of Phobos. Manifest Judgment, Archaeotech vessel and flagship of Trajan Valoris' Soulblade fleet in the Fourth Tyrannic War. Moirades, trio of vessels used by the Dread Host. Oracle Maximus, Starkeep guarding the Sol system, located on the star line between Sol and Vordrast. Prescience, Starkeep guarding the Sol system, located on the star line between Sol and Hydrafor. Radiance, Scion of Argo, cruiser. Sol's Arrow, frigate. Starfire, Falchion-class battleship of the Solar Fury's shield host. Talon Aegis, Starkeep guarding the Sol system, located on the star line between Sol and Armageddon. Voidhawk, seconded cruiser of the Gilded Talon's Shielded Company. Known Custodes. Horus Heresy era. Chief Custodian Constantin Valdor, Captain General of the Legio Custodes during the Great Crusade in Horus Heresy. He is joined by the Ares Guard, his bodyguard and command unit. Tribune Kadai Vilican, killed during the war within the Webway. Tribune Jassak, killed during the war within the Webway. Tribune Ra Endymion, Hekanatoi, last tribune leading the war within the Webway. Diocletian Koros, prefect of the Hekanatoi. Korarin, Zanmadao Navanar, prefect of the Theranatoi, part of his face ruined during the war within the Webway. Ammon Taromachian, Samonas, broker. Hado Emencon, Garudo, Justinian Arcadius, Custodes Sentinel. Saturnalia, Sumant Gidi Falguni Tirtha, Utam Luna Hesh Udar. Zarin, Ixian Hale, Tribune. Kalimak Sebron, Ephoroi, Prefect. Sutomu, Prefect Warden. Abram Hasrubal, Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought. Sagittarius Malak, Contemptor pattern dreadnought, survived war within the webway after suffering severe damage. Hasturius Calaxor was a shield captain and is now a Contemptor dreadnought. Diolos Acrodius, founder of the Dankanatoi. Debiran Kalimacon, Telemon heavy dreadnought assigned to Lorgar. Aquilon, Oculi Imperator, prefect of the Hykanatoi assigned to watch Lorgar and killed during his betrayal. Uzkarel Ophite, proconsul of the Hateron Guard. Sekaltus Dusk, proconsul of the Hateron Guard. Andalin, prefect of the Hateron Guard. Sola Morve Arcus, shield captain. Kalhin, Neurulus. Sithran, member of squad Dynasties assigned to Aquilon and killed during Lorgar's betrayal. Vendatha, assigned to Corax. Arcatus. Hanumarasi, member of the Hykanatoi. Aquino. Post-enthronement. Beiruth, Captain General during the War of the Beast. Andronitus. Maldovar Kolquan, Tribune. Navradaran, investigated the cult of the fallen angel on Terra during the 41st millennium. Asoth Komadra, Captain General. Excelsior, Captain General during the Age of Apostasy. Tibonus Lencilius, Captain General M40 and M41. Galahoth, Captain General M41. Andros Lonsader, Captain General M41. Trajan Valoris, current Captain General. Valerian, Shield Captain. Adilus, Shield Captain. Marcus Achelor, Shield Captain. Longinus, Companion. Heraklion, Tribune. Italio, Tribune. Leontios Nikel Theodoso Galba, Prefect. Oldorian, Mephistal. Arion Porphyrius, former Lockwarden. Constans Pulchuria Heracloni. Inades, Contemptor Dreadnought. Borsa Thirsk, current Lockwarden. Jeharl Feldorus Gau, Warden. Taramachius, Ossian, Warden. Pontus Varsilian, Warden. Asteran Kalos, Companion. Heraclast Vadrian. Dareth, Shield Captain. Hastarius Calaxor, Shield Captain, later Contemptor Dreadnought. Anatolan Ganorth, Shield Captain. Nathadian Steel, Shield Captain. Onus, Shield Captain, acted as Captain General Valoris' intermediary delegate during the Hexarchy coup. Pertinax. Pidanoris Caligus, Warden. Archimalis Ticor, Warden. Aratorius, Contemptor Dreadnought. Darian, Dreadnought. Oriaxis, Dreadnought. Telorian, Dreadnought. Eurimedes, Dreadnought. Ujoma, Dreadnought during the Hexarchy coup. Ravathian, Vexillus Praetor of Shield Captain Valerian's Argent Chamber during the Hexarchy coup. Halion, served in Shield Captain Valerian's Argent Chamber during the Hexarchy coup. Anonasta, served in Shield Captain Valerian's Argent Chamber during the Hexarchy coup. Cleus, served in Shield Captain Valerian's Argent Chamber during the Hexarchy coup. Zimander, only survivor of the Emerald Clave Shield Company following the Battle of Lionsgate. He later served in Shield Captain Valerian's Argent Chamber during the Hexarchy coup. Penjad, also served in Shield Captain Valerian's Argent Chamber during the Hexarchy coup. Kaluin, Eyes of the Emperor during the Hexarchy coup. Ukende, Apothecary during the Hexarchy coup. Aristothes, Carvelan, Blade Champion. Hyani Rimush, Blade Champion. Calades Tarovalia Kesh, Blood Games participant. Bayazara Agonades, Emissaries Imperatus Shield Captain. Tirith Shiva Kiris, Staterial Solar Watch member. Whew, those names were rough. All right. Notes. When introduced as a playable faction for Warhammer 40,000, the Adeptus Custodes were said to be recruited from sons of the Terran nobility, forming a Brotherhood of Men. In the 8th edition Codex, the lore changed in this area with the introduction of a female custodian, Calades Tarovalia Kesh, in the 10th edition Codex. Another female custodian, Bayazara Argonades is mentioned in the same source. A third Tirith Shiva Kiris appeared in The Tithes, episode 2, titled Harvest. See also the Eternity Gate and Antipodaic Clusters. All right, there is the Adeptus Custodes. What did you think? Obviously, there's a little bit of controversy going on with them recently because of the decision to add female Custodes. Where do you fall? I'd like to hear your opinion. With that said, as always, drop a comment letting me know what you'd like to hear more about. And of course, like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.